editor Cheryl Klein, and author Cheryl B. Klein. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a delight to be here.
I am so thrilled to chat with you. I've been looking forward to this for a month and a half. I've just been, oh my God, I have so many questions. I hope I wrote them all down. I hope I don't forget. So probably the best place to start is I never summarize anyone else's book or anyone else's biography because I'll make a mess of both. So if you would tell an esteemed audience kind of an overview of your background, although no one in my crowd, they probably have some idea of who you are already.
I have been in this business 20 years now, surprisingly enough. My current position is I'm the editorial director of Lowe Books, which is a small independent press devoted to work by and about people of color and other underrepresented groups. Before that, I've been there for about 3.5 years, and before that, I spent 16 years as an editorial assistant. I spent 16 years as an editor at Arthur A. Levine Books, Scholastic, where I started as an editorial assistant, got all of my editorial education, and rose to being executive editor there. And at both places, I've done a pretty nice mix of novels and picture books, with a real focus on people from underrepresented groups and on good literary quality of various kinds, is what I would say. Like both of the publishers I've worked for have been very interested in like telling stories with depth and heart and reality, portraying the reality of other people's lives. And that's all the things that I'm interested in as a reader and as an editor as well. So it's been a very happy career all around.
Do you foresee yourself editing to the end of your career, or do you at some point have aspirations to go become a movie star? Or
editing is my vocation, is what I would say. Is like, yes, I see myself editing for as long as the publishing industry will have me, basically, and because it's a great job where you get to read things and think about them in depth and talk about them with really interesting people, and then shape them in a way that you are going to, in future, shape the way people think and talk about things. Like you're putting out the books that will hopefully change readers' minds about how they feel about something, whether it's a nonfiction subject or another person who they may not have met, or might be creating more empathy, because they think, oh, that's that sort of situation, something like that. So it's a very satisfying job, and one that I really love, and I see myself doing it as long as I can. Yeah.
Although, if Steven Spielberg is watching and he sees you and he says that you've got to come in, and we'll see what happens. No, I think the world needs you right where you are. More empathy is desperately needed.
Yeah.
Lots of questions for you. Let's, if you don't mind, maybe start a little bit at the beginning, and we'll build up. But I promise, esteemed audience, we will not finish this interview without at least talking once about flying saucers and Harry Potter. That's my personal pledge. But let's start, because you were raised in a peculiar Missouri. Is that right?
That is correct. Well, the sound motto is "Where the odds are with you." It's about half an hour south of Kansas City. So whenever I describe where I'm from, I usually say I'm from Kansas City. And I'm the daughter of 2 school teachers and the granddaughter, this is the most relevant part, of a children's literature professor. My grandfather, Philip Sadler, taught children's literature at the University of Central, what's now the University of Central Missouri. And mostly what he did was teach teachers how to use children's books in their classrooms, and then when they were teaching reading. So, but he also founded one of the nation's first children's literature festivals. So every spring he would invite like 20 to 40 authors to come to this small town, Warrensburg, Missouri, in central Missouri, and they would meet with hundreds, if not thousands, of school kids from around the area who would be bussed in to hear the authors speak. And as far as I know, this is one of the first children's literature festivals ever founded in the United States. He started doing it back in, I think, the late 60s. and they recently celebrated the 50th anniversary. And I was lucky enough that I started going to it when I was just a baby. You know, like my mom tells stories of driving Clyde Robert Bulla through the snow, and me being held in his arms as we were going to Warrensburg. You know, so that's so I grew up going to the festival. I grew up knowing children's authors. I grew up getting all my grandfather's review copies, all those sort of things. So I really grew up like immersed in children's literature, long past the point that a lot of my peers had sort of moved on to reading adult books. I mean, I also moved on to reading young adult books and reading adult books. But like when I was in college, I was also still reading. I would go to the Northfield Public Library and I would check out children's books, or I would go and find children's books that I loved and read those alongside my English major books. So, so I knew I loved children's literature all my life. And then when I was in high school, my mom gave me a book called Great Careers for Readers, because I decided I wanted to do something, have a career that involved reading in some way, because that was what I loved the most in the world. And I read about being a book editor, and I thought, that sounds really amazing. And so I went to college with the thought that I was going to become a book editor. And I became an
straight to it, never any divergence. Like, this is what I will do.
Well, I mean, before that, I thought, you know, I was a smart girl, quote unquote, and smart girls, I was encouraged to be a doctor. My dad really wanted me to be a doctor, and I got through high school biology, and I was like, I do not like cutting things up, and this is not what I'm passionate about, you know. And then it's like, what am I passionate about? Well, it's reading. And so where do I find a career that's reading? I did think about being a librarian instead, but I felt like I wanted to really be involved with making the books. First of all, I wanted to try that at least. And so yeah, I went straight to editing. And after college, I went to Carleton College in Minnesota, which is a really nice school that very few people have heard of. And I always had to work in the summers to make money for during the school year. So I never came to New York and did an internship. And so after college, and internships are important as like a way of making connections and getting experience. So after college, I went to what's called the Denver Publishing Institute. And I describe it as publishing camp, basically. And while I was there, I met Susan Hirschman, who was the founding editor of Green Willow Books. And she talked about her experience editing Robin McKinley and William Steig and all these amazing people. And I was like, it was literally like I was sitting there listening to her, and it was like a light shone down on me from above. It was like, this is what you should do. Go, my child. And I was like, yes. And I wrote to her, and I was like, I would love to work for you. And she wrote back and she said, I don't have any jobs available, but Arthur Levine is hiring an assistant right now. And she sent my resume to Arthur, and Arthur interviewed me, and it was a terrible, terrible interview because I knew that I was a big Harry Potter fan by that point. This was the summer of 2000, right after Goblet of Fire had come out. And I knew that he edited the books, and I really wanted to work for him. And so as a result, whenever I get really nervous, I sort of shut down quite often. Like, that's the way I manage a lot of emotional overload. And so he thought I was very sweet and very shy. And because my eyes are really bloodshot, possibly a pothead. but
he was not a disqualifier.
He was like, he gave me the opportunity to write readers' reports, which I had learned how to do at Denver. And so basically I got the job on the strength of my writing skills for writing readers' reports. And that turned out it worked out pretty well all around for both of us, I think. So